This episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show was recorded before the finish of Week 18. So if you notice that the Bears aren't drafting number one and it's the Houston Texans, and obviously we know that flip-flop, we will come back at a later time and correct that. But as of now, our thoughts on the draft and the selection and where guys are going to go, that has not changed. So we hope you like this episode. Enjoy.
College football playoff is in the books, and we are continuing our mock draft, the second half, today on Locked On NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ryan Tracy from Rogue Analytics and Locked On Chiefs. Of course, I am part of Locked On 49ers and this lovely show here. You can find me on Twitter at Eric_Crocker. Find him on Twitter at Ryan Tracy NFL. And we also want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players and they score more or less than their PrizePicks projections. You can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. First-time users, you can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 while using the promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. We are firing away and continuing this mock draft. Here is Wednesday now, and again, we're doing this before the game's finalized, so some of the order might be just slightly off, but we're starting right now with the Detroit Lions, and they traded away TJ Hawkinson. I think that was shocking for me, maybe not shocking for people close to the Detroit Lions and their situation. I like what they're doing at the receiver position. I had them draft a receiver. People were like, no, they're not going receiver here, but now they are going pass catcher. Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. I really like him. I think the middle of this draft is right around the range where he's going to go, especially if he runs fairly well. I don't think people are expecting him to be a blazer, but Michael Mayer, they got their new tight end here to help a guy that's going to continue to be the quarterback, Jared Goff.
Yeah, I think Goff has earned it, and anytime you can give a good tight end weapon to a quarterback, that's going to help your offense move all the way around, and I think Mayer can do a little bit of everything. The New England Patriots are a little bit frustrated with your decision here, so we'll get to them here in a minute, but I like where you're going. What about the Seattle Seahawks?
They're going with Osiris Torrance, and he's going to play in the middle out of Florida. They did a really good job of going on the outside, getting those tackles. They're going to be long-term answers. Abraham Lucas did a really good job with him, and we're going to see him continue to progress. He's going to hold down that right side there, but let's build up that interior of the line. Give your running back, Kenneth Walker, some running lanes, some guys that run behind, and I think Osiris Torrance is the guy that's going to really help with that.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think anything you do to help Walker is the future of what you're looking to do, because whatever happens with the quarterback spot, and we gave them Bryce Young on Monday. So, again, that all helps feed into the youth that you're putting behind the offensive line. I love that pick. And that brings us to the New England Patriots. And for me, this is now rolling with it. And if there's one guy that I think you want to get into a tight end role, I think Mayer's a great fit. But if they do in Detroit what you just did, I think the one upside of taking Luke Musgrave here, another tight end, is that he may actually test out faster. He may be a little bit more of the pass-catching variety, probably not as good a blocker from what I've seen to this point, but I think that's also a fit that can help whoever the quarterback is in New England. And I do think there's some speculation around there, particularly with the opening, quote-unquote, in Las Vegas. So what do you think of Musgrave? Have you seen enough of him to feel comfortable taking him in the top 20?
Well, I mean, we know that New England and what they like to do with their tight ends, and I think when they were at their best, they had 2 really good tight ends. They tried to get back to that while doing it during their free agency, and I thought it was going to work with Smith and Hunter Henry. It has not really been that, and you want to continue to add weapons, especially, I mean, who's going to be their quarterback long-term? Is it going to be Mac Jones? Are they going to stick with him? Is maybe the issue the offensive coordinator? Whatever the issue is, adding another pass catcher like Musgrave, I think that's going to really help the situation.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It makes things, I think, smoother for whatever the future is going to be there. So that brings us to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Up and down season for them. What do?
They go offensive line with Anton Harrison. And go ahead, get that tackle. That's it, or you could play him in the guard until tackle spot opens up. I think they really like what they have on the offensive line, but man, they were so banged up this last year. And I think if there's anywhere they can get better and potentially be good for whoever the quarterback is, probably not going to be Tom Brady next year. We'll see what happens with that situation, but you're going to have to protect the quarterback. And I think really shoring up that offensive line, that's going to be the first step to doing that.
I think you might be right about Tom Brady, but right now the Baltimore Ravens are really thankful for what the Tampa Bay Bucs just decided to do. We'll talk more about that selection coming up, but the Jacksonville Jaguars are next on the clock before we go to this break. And it's a tough one because this is a team that's surging. And I think what you've seen on the offensive side of the ball with Etienne's season after the lost injury season, and then obviously the whole offense being able to rally around Doug Peterson and move forward after the debacle that was Urban Meyer. I think you have to give them a lot of credit. So how can you help them? Just had a miraculous play to seal their win this last weekend on the defensive side. Let's make that a little bit stronger. Let's give them a dynamic corner that I think is underrated right now and really should be climbing up a little bit higher. He may get to this point. Devin Witherspoon from Illinois is a corner that I think could slot in there and help them defend, help take some of that pressure off of Trevor Lawrence and Etienne. And I think that makes the Jacksonville Jaguars a better, more well-rounded team next year.
Right, yeah, this is a team that has been trying to figure it out at the cornerback position. I really like Tyson Campbell. I think he's having one of the more underrated seasons right now. A lot of people aren't really paying too much attention to him, but he's doing a really good job. Had a big interception in their previous game to get into that solidified them into the playoffs. But that other cornerback spot, they really need a lot of help there. And they went out there. They actually went and got a guy, the kid out of a Ouachita Baptist Division II school. I only know about them because I played against them. And that was Gregory Jr. or Junior Gregory. But you got to continue to get better at that position, cornerback. So I think getting a guy like Witherspoon, that will definitely help them. We're going to get to some more teams when we come back. All right, guys, but it's not just draft season. It's also tax season, or not taxes season. All right, go to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Meet with an expert who will do them for you. TurboTax experts can relieve you from the stress of taxes and file for you so you can do not taxes. All right, show your eyes things that are not taxes. Unpack a moving box of not taxes. Taste not taxes. All right, sing not taxes a lullaby. Hope not taxes sleeps through the night, and grab a saddle and a ride of not taxes into the sunset. With the TurboTax 100% expert guarantee, an expert will do all your taxes and start to finish so that you can relax. Feels good to be done with your taxes, doesn't it? Come to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Visit TurboTax.com to learn more. And Intuit TurboTax, full service produces only. Our video meetings while experts do your taxes is required. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com. Guarantees. Also, I know we all want to be a GM, and Ultimate GM is going to help you be that. I'm really geeked about this. All right, it's a new sponsor on this show, and they got this mobile game, Ultimate Football GM. Everyone, including me, I'm pretty sure y'all as well, have dreamed of becoming an NFL GM and managing your own franchise. Some of us do it in Madden. Some of us do it on the Ultimate GM game on your phone. Your dream can come true, and this game is definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the season, and lead your team to glory. You're responsible for hiring the right coaches and coordinators, trading players, making draft picks, navigating your franchise through the free agency and the draft and all the ups and downs of a season. All this is very challenging and realistic in the gaming world. Ultimate Football GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to as well. All right, listen, Locked On NFL Draft listeners, you guys are going to get 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On, and that's Locked On in all caps. All right, in the game store, that's Locked On in all caps. So make sure you check that out today and download the game. Visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up on the App Store. That's ultimate-gm.com. It's Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today. We got the New York Football Giants on the clock at pick 22, and they are going to go linebacker here, Trenton Simpson. What do you think about them going and getting kind of better in the middle of that defense?
That can never hurt. You got to have that kind of thing. I am really interested to see. Right now they're kicking themselves. At least I think Brian Daboll is, because of the departure of Tony. They kind of gave up on him. When you see what he's doing now that he's moved on, I wonder if they need to think weapons too. But if you can solidify the middle of that defense, that helps everything, whether it's Daniel Jones or whatever they're going to do with the future. I think the future is bright for the Giants. Right now, I think anything you can do to bolster everything, gain level of play anywhere on the field, I think you're doing something good.
You got a few picks coming up here, and it starts with the Baltimore Ravens. Did we just kind of insinuate that Lamar Jackson will not be a Baltimore Raven next year because they're going quarterback here?
That's what I'm insinuating. Again, these mocks, there's always variations. Do we know what's going to happen with Lamar? We don't. But let's say that he decides to move on. Maybe they can't work it out. Maybe there is something that makes him depart, or you could see him maybe one more season or something like that. There's all these options on the table. Well, with the Tampa Bay Bucks passing on this guy that is playing in their state, I think you can make the justification, and it fits the play style of what the Baltimore Ravens currently do. Now, no one's going to live up to Lamar Jackson. This is a former MVP, so I can't say that this is a one-for-one replacement. But I can see them, if Lamar and the Baltimore Ravens can't work something out, whether it's this season, next season, you can see somebody stepping in that they can do some similar things. That guy is Anthony Richardson, a guy that has a lot of upside with his legs, has a long way to go with the way that he delivers the ball. Very similar story to what we had out of Louisville for Lamar. It makes almost too easy a fit, but we're going to try it here and see how that makes the rest of this draft fall out.
I really like that. And, just kind of with Greg Roman there, offensive coordinator, really help kind of continue what they've been doing offensively. You don't have to change that whole philosophy. And I think that's something that's going to really help Anthony Richardson with what his skill set is today and really hopefully progress even more as a passer. But big arm, and definitely terrific athleticism. Really like the pick there. Up next, we have the LA Chargers on the clock. Where do they go?
The Chargers are in a tough position here because when you take a look at the AFC West overall, they spent over $1 billion in contract to try and catch up with the Kansas City Chiefs, and it didn't work. And they're still behind. And one thing that happened to the Chargers was the fact that they had Keenan Allen miss a ton of time. Mike Williams missed some time. There's steadiness there in Palmer that I think they're pretty happy with, but they need more weapons to make sure that they can have, some of their older players miss some time and still be able to put up points. I think Rashee Rice in this offense is really intriguing. I think he can do all the things that they need him to do and gives them a little bit more dynamicism. And that's what this Chargers offense needs, in my opinion, to maximize Herbert. And Herbert is coming up on the second contract. This has got to get the rubber hitting the road really, really quick. So I like Rashee Rice there. Do you think that works?
I definitely do. And you look at some of the guys they have. I think Josh Palmer, he's been really good at the receiver position. He's been able to play inside, outside, and really kind of keep the ship steady when some of these other guys, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, were out. But Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, they got to stay healthy, and they're getting a little bit older, especially Keenan Allen, all right? How much longer can he hold on? I think Palmer is somebody that you can definitely keep around, but if you go out and you get a guy like Rashee Rice, I think he's a guy that not only complements Palmer in the long term, but really helps out the quarterback as well. Where are we going with the next pick, the Cincinnati Bengals? This is a hard team to kind of pick for because you look and it's like, man, offensively, they're able to put points. They're hitting stride early on in the season. It's like, oh, man, Super Bowl hangover, right? You lose in the Super Bowl, it starts to look weird. But I think as of late, man, they're one of the hottest teams heading into the playoffs. But where can they get better?
They definitely are. They made the investment with Dax Hill, and I know there's everything with Jesse Bates. You have to make the investment to continue to stay up to speed in the secondary. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be right now. So I think they can hold off on that a little bit. What you have to do is continue to help Mixon and Joe Burrow, and I think that becomes versatility. There's one player here that is kind of in the middle of the top fives in a couple of categories, and I think he can play inside or outside. Cody Mock, the North Dakota State interior offensive lineman, is where I have him. So some people still have him at tackle. It doesn't matter. You put him in this line, you let him compete for a job, and I think you're making your front five better overall just by making that pick. So I think you have to go that direction. Cody Mock, the offensive lineman to the Bengals.
I'm all for bolstering up that offensive line for them, and we're going to bolster up another position for the Minnesota Vikings. All right, right now you got Harrison Smith, but man, he's just getting a little bit older. Last season they drafted Louis Seen. He's on IR right now. Where can the Vikings get better? I think kind of adding to that safety position and having the long-term answers. When you have an opportunity to get a guy like Antonio Johnson, you go out and get him. So we're going to plug in this safety here. Even if he doesn't have to play day one right away, I think getting a guy at pick 26 this late in the draft for the Vikings, this would be a good pick for them to really continue to kind of start to get better and turn over at that position, or really just in the secondary in general for them. They could go corner here, and I don't think anybody would be mad if they go corner, but we're going to go safety for them right now.
I like it. It makes sense in trying to bolster that. They had this run, and they kind of hit the wall lately, right, where the Vikings were out there. Now they're falling down. I think they're still playoff eligible as we're still waiting on Week 18 games. But if you can solidify and give them a little bit more help back there, I think that helps overall. Harrison Smith is, 78 years old at this point? So, hey, get going on it.
All right, Dallas, Denver, Buffalo, Philly, Kansas City, they are all coming up next with the last picks. But first, talking about picks, we got to talk to you a little bit about PrizePicks. And listen, PrizePicks, you pick the higher, lower, more or less than what you think their yards are going to be or their stats are going to be, right? Is Tyreek Hill going to catch more or less than 3.5 passes? I think with that, we'd all say more, right? You look at these quarterbacks, Sam Darnold, he's been running in for touchdowns. He's been throwing touchdowns. He's going to have 2 or more touchdowns in a game. You get to do all that and more. And what do you love about the game in this format? It's daily. There is no long-term commitment to it. It's easy. All right, and I'm going to tell you how it works. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they will go and score more or less than their PrizePicks projections, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. I don't have to compete against Ryan. I compete against whatever that computer spits out. And it's just for you. It's the projections that are available. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport that you can watch. That's NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, golf, football, college football, men's college basketball, women's, all the sports, soccer. They have everything you need. Esports, NASCAR, tennis. And these entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's super easy. It's safe. And they have really fast withdrawals as well. They currently operate in 30 states, and not just over 30 states, but our friends north of the border, Canada. All right, download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. All right, first times users can receive a 100% instant deposit of up to $100 while using the promo code Locked On. So what does that mean? If you deposit $100, they will match your $100 deposit, and now you'll have $200 to play around with. If you deposit $50, they'll match it and give you $50. All right. Don't forget to use the promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100. Ryan, we have the Dallas Cowboys on the clock, and this is a team that was kind of sniffing around Odell Beckham. Haven't brought him in. We'll see if anything changes as they enter the playoffs. But what are they going to do at the receiver position? Okay, you got Gallup. We like Gallup and what he is. You also have another guy by the name of, CeeDee Lamb. That's their guy. They're really kind of factoring this entire offense around them. I like what they have at the tight end position, but because of them really trying to figure things out and add that third really legit receiver, we're going to go Jalen Hyatt, the receiver out of Tennessee. He plays in the slot. He's a field stretcher. He has that speed. He gets on guys' toes quick. All right, this is the kind of downfield threat that I think they can really benefit from. I like Gallup. He's a downfield threat as well, but not with just pure speed. I think Hyatt kind of brings that type of ability to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I cannot argue with you at all. When you don't have to be the primary outside X-type number one receiver, I think that's where Jalen Hyatt can make the big difference. There is skill set and there is fit, and I think both those things work in Dallas. I like that spot for him. Fit is something that's really important when you're trying to support your franchise $17 billion quarterback that is Russell Wilson. It's been a meltdown in Denver this year. The dispatch of the former head coach now leaves things open. It could be somebody like Sean Payton, who's actually got permission to talk to the Denver Broncos, as we found out this weekend. What does that mean? It means all emphasis on offense all the time. How can you help Russ be the Russ that he was? And that comes down to protection right now. There are some weapons there you think you might augment. I don't know if the first round's where they want to do that, but in helping the offensive line keep him up. It's difficult with height, and I know everybody's got this bug about how Russell works with taller linemen. You can't really put that in your evaluation. You have to have the best lineman that's available, and right now, despite this being the 5th offensive tackle we've put into this draft, a lot of those being my selections, it's Darnell Wright from Tennessee that's got to go in there and help protect Russ, keep him upright. I think that's the way that they have to go. Do you like that, Peck, or do you think there's a better fit?
I do like that pick, but when you talk about having a better fit, I think, is there any better fit than Buffalo taking Bijan Robinson? So talk to us a little bit about that selection that you made.
Now, for you Bills fans, yep, this is the same pick I made for you last time, but it's just too good to fit right here. What does it do and take some of the pressure off of Josh, let him not have to use his legs quite as much? Now, I like what they did in getting Cook. I think that's a 1-2 punch of the future. Now, Zach's been decent. I think that this makes you a more balanced offense. That helps everybody from Josh to Diggs to whatever other weapons that they acquire, and I do think that's on the table. But it's just too good a fit here to pass up on. And I think in terms of value, running back at 29, that's about where it can start to come in. I can't see taking him in the top 20. What do you think of that fit?
Oh, love it. And we talk about his ability. And shout out to Buffalo Bills, man. I mean, you get all the warm and fuzzies with the DeMar Hamlin situation and how that's played out. Man, he's doing awesome. He's FaceTiming his guys. The Buffalo Bills, and you can't make this up, Sunday morning, the opening kickoff, they return back for a touchdown. So everybody's going bananas right now in Buffalo, man, and it's kind of been awesome to see. But adding a running back, somebody that can take the pressure off him. And I like Cook, James Cook. I think Bijan Robinson and James Cook, you kind of combine those guys right there and what they are. That is a terrific tandem right there. Not to leave out Singletary. I think he's been doing well, but these are two long-term answers there that really complement each other. We got the Philadelphia Eagles on the clock right now. And, guys, you got to go edge rusher, right? I think that's pretty simple. For me, Robert Quinn is going to be their long-term. Josh Sweat, they did give him some money, but is he going to be a long-term guy? Brandon Graham, he's only getting older. I thought he'd be going after the last year after tearing his ACL, Achilles, but he says, nah, man, I'm still here. I'm still kicking. I'm still playing well. But we're going to go Isaiah Foskey, the edge rusher out of Notre Dame, going to Philadelphia to really bolster up that D-line. And you go Jordan Davis. Now you give them an edge rusher on the outside. You got two long-term guys that's going to really cause havoc there. And, I mean, they've been doing that, man, with guys like Cox. But Philadelphia, their strength right now, let's continue to make it that defensive line and make everything easier on the back end, where we did give them a cornerback earlier in this draft.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And right now, folks, we are using Tankathon for where these selections are, and they have Philadelphia and Kansas City as the Super Bowl participants. So both these teams have this in common, is they need edge. And I think the fit for Foskey is real good in terms of what they can do in having the more stout defender. KC would like that as well. So they're a little frustrated here with you for grabbing this guy up there. The last of the top 5 edge rushers is still available on my board. He's not quite exactly the same fit, but he gives you a speed option. And there is some thought that they could be mixing a little bit more 3-4 kind of looks, being a little bit more hybrid in the coming season. So what can you do to help that along? This would have been Jared Verse, except he decided to go back to Florida State. So at 31, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to take B.J. Ojulari, the edge rusher from LSU. And yes, there's a vacated pick for the Miami Dolphins. That's why there's only 31 picks in this first round. What do you think of B.J. being the next edge off the board?
I mean, he's a guy that has to be more consistent as a pass rusher. That's why instead of being in the top 10, he's a guy that's in the later part of the first round, or maybe even creep into the second round and be a day 2 type pick. But every time you watch LSU, you see the flash plays. You see the ability. And I saw that every time. But now, how do you get to be more consistent? The NFL coaches, they're going to think that they can coach him up to get him to be more of that guy that you want him to be long term. So that is a guy that I really like, and I definitely like in this spot. Nice little pick for Kansas City, who needs to continue to get better at that edge rushing spot. I like what they're doing, though, man. You got Chris Jones playing on the outside a little bit sometimes, and they're kind of mixing it up there. Interesting times over there in Kansas City. Don't want them to be too good, man. They already got a cheat code at that quarterback position. We're going to continue to dive into these mock drafts as this draft season continues. First, I want to thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And for your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Podcast, bring you the local insights you love to the national spotlight with daily conversations on the biggest stories. Locked On NFL, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Ryan, it's been fun. We got through it. This whole draft order is going to change. So we're going to have to talk more about this as this week and next week goes on. But we thank y'all again for making us your listen. You guys can find us on Twitter at Eric_Crocker. Find Ryan Tracy at Ryan Tracy NFL. And of course, you can find us on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. But it's going to do it for this episode. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.